Hello everyone, and welcome back to Revit Snippets. Great tips you can learn in just a few minutes.
This video is sponsored by Tagitize, the easiest way to run Tag All on multiple Revit views and sheets. Also, say goodbye to overlapping tags. Tagitize will turn this into this. Try Tagitize completely for free using the link in this video's description. If your Revit model has lots of duplicated tags, it can take a lot of time to clean them up. For example, each of the doors of my model here has multiple identical tags. Of course, it's easy to delete some tags so that there's only one left for each door. However, I really don't fancy doing the same thing over and over again for the other 100 doors. This is exactly when Dynamo comes in handy. I can just open this small Dynamo script here, run it, and voila, all duplicated tags have been removed in a single click, leaving each door with just one tag, and life is beautiful again.
If you don't have much time and just want to run this script right away, simply find in the video's description a link to download this script directly. If you, however, want to learn to code this yourself, let me show you how right now, step by step. By the way, if you are new to this channel, make sure to subscribe now because we do tutorials like this every single week. Okay, let's begin.
To start, let's create a new script in Dynamo. I will now add a Python node to the graph and open it for editing. However, this is not a good script editor, so I'll type the code out in Visual Studio Code instead and copy it back into Dynamo at the end. If you're new to this workflow, don't worry. Just find in the video's description below a link to my other tutorial on how to set up this coding environment. It will also provide you with this Python template for Dynamo. That will give you all the necessary information to then return to this video and start scripting with me. To begin, let's create a custom function to extract the integer value of a Revit element ID. We will need this in a minute. We will check if the current model is in Revit 2024 or later. If true, we can read the value property of the ID and return its value. Otherwise, we'll read the legacy integer value property instead. Next, let's import the two inputs we will feed into this Python script. They are both Boolean inputs. The first one is for us to say if we really want to carry out the removal of duplicated tags. This is because deleting things can be dangerous, so we'll first run a script with this input set to false, review the list of tags it wants to delete. If that looks fine, we'll change the input to true to perform the actual deletion. The second input will determine which tag the script should keep for each host. If it's false, we want to keep the last created tag of an element. If it's true, however, the script will keep the tag first created for the same element. Next, we will create this dictionary to help with grouping tags by their hosts. The dictionary's keys will be tag hosts, and the values will be a list of tags for each host. Now, it's time to start looping through all independent tags in the model's active view, like this. For each tag, let's check if it's orphaned. If so, we'll need to skip it because we won't know which element is associated with the tag anyway, so let's just keep it to be safe. For a valid tag, though, let's loop through all elements it references. For each element, this loop will provide the link element ID object. Let me call it linked ID. I will now also create a variable called host identifier. This will be a string value that represents a tag host. It can be just an element ID value of the host that is in the active model. If the host is a linked element though, this identifier will also contain the ID of the link instance. That will allow uniquely identifying any element tagged, no matter which Revit file it comes from. We can get the link instance ID from the linked ID object like this. Note that this only has a meaningful value if the tag references an element in a Revit link. Let's check if this is the case. I'll check now if the link ID is none or equals to the invalid element ID value. If either of these is true, that means the tag references an element in the active Revit model. In that case, I can simply get the ID of the element in the active model and assign that to be the host identifier. On the other hand, if the tag element is from a Revit link, I'll start the identifier with the ID of that link, followed by the ID of the element inside it. Now that we have a stable identifier string, let's check if the dictionary already has a key of that value. If yes, we can just get the list of tags under that key and add the current tag to that list. If not, let's add the identifier to the dictionary as a new key and set its value to a new list that contains only the current tag. Now that we have finished the for loop, let's create next the list of tag IDs we will delete. Then I will iterate through all key value pairs in the dictionary like this. If a key only has one tag under it, That means no other tags is referencing the same host element of this single tag. Great, we can skip this entry then. Otherwise, let's see which tags we need to delete. This is where I'll check the value of the keep oldest tag boolean flag. If we have set that to true, I'll sort the list of tags by ID in ascending order. This will bring the oldest tag to the front of the list, because tags created after it will always have bigger ID values. If the boolean value is false, however, I'll still sort the list but set reverse to true to sort it in descending order. This will of course bring the last created tag to the first position in the list. Alright, now that we have the list of ID values sorted, the first value is of the tag we want to keep. So let's omit it from the list, like this. The values still in this list, I can add all of those to the list of ID values to delete. The last step in our Python script is to delete tags that correspond to the ID values in ID to delete. This is the only place in this entire script where we need a transaction. So let's open one, like this. Inside this transaction, we can simply call the delete method, passing in the list of ID values. Once the transaction is committed, the unwanted tags will be gone from our model. Finally, I'll return a list of deleted tag ID values from this Python node. We will see this later in the main Dynamo graph. Next, let's copy all text from this file, paste it into the Python node in Dynamo, save it, and close this node. We also need to add two Boolean input nodes. Let's call the first one perform actual delete. We'll only set this to true if we really want to get rid of any detected duplicated tags. For the second node, I'll call it keep oldest tags. I'll set it to true for now to delete all duplicated tags in each group, except for the first one ever created in this model. We can now connect both inputs to the Python node. Last but not least, I'll change the Python version here from version 3 to version 2. This is because my Python script in Visual Studio Code was written in this lower version. With that, our Dynamo script is finally complete. Let's now run the script to see it in action. Alright, it has worked beautifully, just like before. However, it would be even better if we could avoid having duplicated tags in the first place. The easiest way to do that is to use Tagitize. If I just quickly duplicate this view and then run Tagitize in the new view, you will see that each element is only tagged once. The app even cleverly selected the best leader type for each tag depending on the surrounding conditions. Additionally, Tagitize intelligently considered all visible elements in the view to avoid placing tags where they may overlap. Even better, you can use Tagitize for any Revit category, not just doors. If I now just quickly open the app settings and then tell it to tag also window, furniture, rooms, and planting, let's see how it will perform. Very nice. It had to arrange a lot more tags this time, but it did so very well. All my tags are perfectly readable. None of them overlaps with their hosts or other elements in the view. If I think this tag, for example, can be placed better, I can just select it and click Next to tell Tagitize to try the next possible tag position. Each time I click the button, Tagitize moves the tag for me, and I can keep doing this until it gets to a tag position I like. There we go. That's much better. If you want to try Tagitize, simply use the link in this video's description to get it completely for free. There's also a link in the description to download the script we built together today. Even more, if you want to master Python scripting in Dynamo to create this kind of script yourself, check out my full online Python for Dynamo course, also linked to in the video description.
If you like this lesson and want more like this every single week, make sure to subscribe to this channel now. For now, have a good day and I'll see you in the next tutorial.